Failure of Reconstruction was one of the greatest victories for the system of white supremacy.
What's up, family, and welcome on another episode. How are you guys doing? I hope you all are doing well. And if you're joining for the very first time, thank you for clicking on this video and thank you all for your support. I do not take them for granted, and I'm sure you guys know that already. I have a video of a white man here who decided to school his own people because I believe a lot of black people are aware of this, or even if you're not aware, you're aware of part of what he's saying. There's a lot of truth to what he is saying, and as well, people contributing to his video is even making it more educational and sparking a very good conversation, which I decided to bring on here as well because I want to hear what you guys think about this video. I want to hear what you guys think about some certain names that were brought up in some of the sticks that you guys are going to watch. And he is basically talking about why Reconstruction failed and how slavery is repackaged and how they keep black people as a permanent, subservient, terrorized class. So I think this is a very good conversation. So stay with me, guys, and let's just get right into it.
Reconstruction failed because every single slave owner should have been executed, their land redistributed to their former slaves, and the entire Confederate Army's weapons arsenal should have been provided to the former slaves to protect themselves and their land. The failure of Reconstruction was one of the greatest victories for the system of white supremacy that firmly entrenched and emboldened its power, that allowed slavery to be repackaged and to keep black people as a permanent, subservient, terrorized class. And it teaches us that you cannot compromise with a defeated ruling class. They will always try to regain the power that they once had, which serves as a lesson for moving forward today. Reconstruction failed because every single slave owner should have been executed, their land redistributed to their former slaves, and the entire Confederate Army's weapons arsenal should have been provided to the former slaves to protect themselves and their land.
Hello, my name is Madison, the creator behind the Madison channel. I have a podcast called Bloodstained where I talk about history through the lens of true crime. Season 1 is all about slavery, and this was my final episode. George Washington had slave teeth. Now, I was scrolling this morning and had to make this video. I'm about to get up to go to work, my real job, unfortunately, true. But I had to make this video because the topic of that episode is exactly why I made this episode of the Bloodstained podcast. The reason why it's called George Washington had slave teeth is basically alluding to white myth-making and its very insidious nature in American history. A lot of people take history to be fact, and a lot of the time what you're taught and indoctrinated with, especially at a young age when it comes to elementary school history, are a lot of fables, stories, and lies in order to get you to be patriotic about a country that really doesn't give a fuck about you. One such lie is the fact that George Washington had wooden dentures. I talk about this all throughout the beginning of this episode, but the truth of the matter is you are told that he had wooden teeth when you were young and in school. It's also reified by the media that you watch as a kid, cartoons, shows, references. Raise your hand if you were taught that he had wooden dentures in school, because I don't know if they're still being taught this. But you're told this so you don't really ask questions. And it's people that, maybe go take an African-American history class or go to a museum in Washington, D.C. where they have his teeth on display, or go do research, or you see something on the internet and go down a rabbit hole, which is what happened to me. It is only those people that realize the truth, that he actually had slave teeth in his mouth with a combination of ivory and other stone. And you start to have to ask yourself, why the fuck would they lie to me about something so fucking petty? To me, and that's my, this is my deduction, they make sure to indoctrinate you with a lot of these myths about Honest Abe, the cherry tree, the wooden teeth, in order to distance the truth of what the forefathers of this country were actually like, and the fact that they actually owned human beings while trying to pursue freedoms for themselves only. And when I say themselves, I mean white, wealthy, land-owning individuals. In this episode specifically, I talk about something called neo-slavery, and it's basically the process with which slavery as we knew it became legal and encouraged again through the time period directly after the Civil War. There are so many reasons why Reconstruction was a failure. There are so many reasons why it was not able to succeed. I have my thoughts in this episode, but a big part of that was Lincoln wanted soldiers, black soldiers who fought for the Union, to be given the right to vote. John Wilkes Booth obviously heard that and decided to unalive him in that theater, as we know he did. Mind you, this is a time when the 400,000 acres of land had already been distributed into 40 acres, and black former slaves were already being given deeds to own said land. But of course, once Lincoln was unalived, all of that land got taken back and redistributed to white people. Of course, after Lincoln got assassinated, his racist-ass, democratic, white supremacist Southern vice president, who he ran with to balance the ticket to try and unite the Union, took over, and of course, we were put on the worst timeline possible. I've said this before, and I'm going to always continue saying this, but white people's privilege, generational wealth, is generational debt. It's generational debt that you have your own ancestors to blame for continuing to push the process of doing right by the enslaved people of this population, by the Native American people of this population, down every generation you have a chance to. And since you guys have never taken responsibility, never been held accountable for what you did to these populations of people on this land, you continue to push the blame and push the responsibility of that generational wealth, which is really generational stolen debt and land, onto younger generations. So much in this country is related to racism. So much in this country is related to the white people in this country wanting to hide how racist this country actually is and why we don't have nice things because they're fucking racist and don't want black people to have nice things as well. And the truth of the matter is, it's all about obfuscating the blame for why our country is the way that it is. Denying, censoring, making sure that white myths make their way into our history so people really don't know the truth of why and how we've gotten to this place. There's a reason why neo-slavery isn't really taught in schools. There's a reason why Reconstruction as a whole isn't really taught in detail in schools. It's pretty glazed over until we get to things like the civil rights movement and other things. And it's because that is the point in time that explains why Black Americans are the way that they are. It is the point in time, it is the point in history where slavery just became legal and acceptable. It is a process for which our continued oppression and domination and exploitation and genocide was made legal by the state after a war was fought over these things. And they don't teach you this part of history purposefully so you can be indoctrinated to believe that we are just loud and we're just complaining over things that happened years and years and years ago. Slavery happened hundreds of years ago. Why are you still complaining? Well, it's because what happened after slavery. It's because slavery isn't dead in this country. It's because this capitalist country still completely runs on slavery, whether it's enslaving people in the global south, whether it's enslaving you via your wage, whether it's enslaving people via the prison industrial complex, you name it, we run on slavery here. And it is still very much alive and it's still very much legal. Honestly, truly, a lot of people are scared right now, and I understand a lot of people are being affected very negatively by this presidency. A lot of stability or things that people depend on are up on the chopping block, and I completely understand how much fear and anxiety that would bring to anyone's just day-to-day life. But I can't help but feel extremely powerful in this moment. Because what it says to me is I'm watching the last vestiges of a society that shouldn't exist, that has no legitimacy to exist, starting to crumble. These are the death rattles of people who refuse to learn. These are the death rattles of a society that refuses to progress and acknowledge its terrible, terrible past. It's going to be horrible and violent and scary and weird and crazy as this country continues to crumble around us, but it will crumble. George Washington had slave teeth in his mouth, y'all. And you don't know because they don't want to be perceived as racist. They don't want us to look at the founding fathers as owning slaves. But he had slave teeth in his mouth, y'all. He did.
Reconstruction failed because every single slave owner should have been executed.
Thank you for saying that message. Please go back and watch that creator for sure. He got a follow out of me. I appreciate it because if I say that, which I already am aware of this information, I'm a threat, I'm dangerous, I've lost my mind, so on and so forth. So I'm really grateful to start seeing white Americans speak up about this, and it's an important topic, and it's true. And we are seeing the results of the ancestry of the slave masters, and they quake when people say things like that. They get so scared because that would mean to wipe out their existence. Not now, of course, they're here, but yeah, we should have done the right thing, and instead now we have what we have in modern day America.
Shout out to the creator, shout out to the man that started the conversation and opened doors for other conversation, especially George Washington's teeth, because we know we were told that he had a wooden teeth. And even if you go online and just type in George Washington teeth, legend has it that Washington had wooden teeth, but the museum historians state that is not true. But that is one of the biggest, lies they've ever told. Everyone keeps wondering, why does he have wooden teeth? Why didn't they say that he had a slave teeth? Maybe they don't want to add it into history because then when the younger people start learning about history, they might want to go back home and question as to why he had a slave teeth. But let me hear what you guys think about the conversation. Every single thing he said is true. Every single day. Although slavery never ended, it was repackaged. Like, we literally don't have universal healthcare in America because racists didn't want black people to have it too. Also, I learned about the wooden teeth from Fairly Horrent. And I saw a comment, I don't know if I screenshotted the comments as well, someone saying they wouldn't have, go into history to actually go and check. But the lie was just too obvious, saying George Washington had wooden teeth. Like, what do they mean by wooden teeth? Another one said slavery was never eradicated, exactly the first lie told. They just created a larger scale operation by utilizing capitalism and for-profit prison systems. which is the truth. This one said, imagine being black, knowing all that you have just said, but have to live every day since then with this knowledge while continuing the illusion to keep the majority at ease. There was a particular video I posted a few days ago of a lady, a black lady, talking about how asking when it is okay to just detach from this people, like detach from white community, like when it's okay to just say I don't want to be associated with this community again, like when is it okay to actually say, you know what, I do not want to be associated with anything that has to do with these people. And if you haven't watched that video, go and watch it, because I think it's a very good conversation as well. And there is no system in place for that to actually happen right now. But I think a lot of people have gotten to a point where they are thinking, when is it okay to actually, detach ourselves from this racist and racism apologist online? If you haven't watched it, please go check it out. It's a very good one as well. Another person said, they tried to redistribute land to black people, then Lincoln got assassinated and Andrew Johnson made them give the land back. Another comment I love here said, if they executed the slave owners, their investigation would have taken them to the northern capitalists purchasing those cash crops and would have ended with their execution too. Then someone replied and said, stop, you need to stretch before reaching that hard. They should round up everyone who used cotton back there. I agree. This person responded and said, those who bought the cotton should be strung up as well as those who forced people to pick it. So when you see people reacting to some certain videos of people cosplaying picking cotton on the farm, it's triggering. It can be triggering, especially when you know history behind that. It can actually be triggering. Let me hear what you guys think about this man's video and what you think about what other creators contributed to his video and what you think as well about the Washington state. Have you ever questioned the reason why he had wooden teeth? Have you ever questioned that it might probably not be a wooden teeth? Let me hear what you think about all of that. I will catch you in the next one.